Hello everyone. I was tagged, honestly, several weeks ago by Kat from Curious Cat to do their wonderful original tag, the Writers Mid-Year Freakout tag. So it is no longer quite mid-year for writers, or anybody technically, but here I am, finally filming it. I love this tag. I love the reading mid-year's freakout tag for readers, and I love that Kat created her own for writers, and I'm super excited that she tagged me in this. So even though it is no longer mid-year, I'm still gonna do this tag because I like it. Make sure you check out Kat's channel. She is a writer as well, and she has a great channel talking all about her reading and writing. Prompt number 1. Did you set any writing goals at the beginning of the year? What were they? And are you on track? I set somewhat loose goals at the beginning of the year. My first goal was to go through the course The Artist's Way, which was a 90-day course-ish. It took me a little bit longer, but I did complete that, and I have some videos that I will link to documenting some of my experience as I went through that course. I liked the course overall. The longer it's been since I did it, I do have some thoughts that I wouldn't necessarily give a blanket recommendation to the course, but I definitely feel like it really helped me work through some specific things that were just kind of had been percolating for a long time related to my writing and taking myself seriously and allowing myself to both dream again as a writer and to take myself seriously as a writer. My second writing goal for the year was to start working on my middle grade novel, which I have started working on, and it has been super fun. And my third writing goal was to start the editing process for the first draft that I completed last year during National Novel Writing Month. I have not started that yet. That is a loose goal for this fall. I'm hoping sometime in the next couple weeks to sit down and actually really map out specific concrete goals and what I would like the next steps to be for each of these projects. So yes, overall, I would say that I am on track for my goals. Number 2, what are you currently working on and how much writing have you done so far this year? My current project is a middle grade book. I have never written middle grade before this, and actually it somewhat came about because of The Artist's Way. In that book, the author talked about reconnecting with your inner child and finding things that bring you joy. One thing led to another, and I started thinking about this idea that was a joke, really, that I started with my oldest son, and we were just kind of joking around one day about something, and I couldn't stop thinking about it, like ever since that first time we talked about it. And I was like, that would be a fun story someday. So I decided to just go ahead and write that, primarily for my kids, but also for my nieces and nephews. But then also with this project, I feel like just because of a lot of the other work that I've been doing in my writing and in my life and in my mental fortitude, I've really realized that this project has helped me reconnect with the type of writing that I like to do. I used to write when I was young in just kind of this over-the-top dramatic way, and I had fun doing it. And I had multiple people telling me at the time, I mean, this is, yeah, a good 20 years ago, that they thought it was so funny and they enjoyed it and they liked the style. And I just remember I liked writing things that were fun to write, and it just brought a lot of personal joy when other people also said that they enjoyed it and found it funny. So I've kind of been tapping into that again, and this project has just been fun, and I am really excited to reconnect with that side of myself again and reconnect with that side of my writing again. I had hoped to have a completed first draft this summer, but life has been happening and I'll take it. I'm not disappointed with that. So far I have written and rewritten an outline, and it's actually the most detailed outline that I've ever had for a book, so that's really fun, kind of figuring out more of my personal process and what I want my process to look like. And I have a rough draft for the beginning of the story. It's not entirely broken down into final chapters, but you know, a section of the story. So it's not entirely where I thought I would be, but I am very pleased with it and I am excited for the progress I've made. Number 3, have you reached any milestones so far this year? It can be word count, stages in a project, or other events in the life of a writer. I have done something that is huge for me. I talked about it in one of my other videos. I'll find it. But I actually shared my writing with some other people, and that is huge for me because it had been upwards of 20 years since I had really shared much at all of my writing. So that was a big step for me. I shared it with some friends and some family, and yeah, that was huge for me. I also entered my very first ever writing contest, which is exciting. And I'm nervous as we are getting closer to the time where I will get my feedback, because I signed up for the tier where I would be getting feedback back from an editor. Feedback back. Editor will point that one out. I signed up for the tier, so I'd be getting feedback from an editor, and I should hear back in September. But I'm really proud of myself for pushing myself and for taking that step. Number 4, what does your writing routine look like right now if you have one? Has it changed since the beginning of the year or the previous year? Are you happy with it? And if not, what would you want it to look like? Right now, I don't really have an at-home writing routine. The most routine part of my writing is my once a month writing group, where once a month we will meet at various coffee shops around town and just sit and write. Everyone brings whatever project they're working on and we write for a couple hours. I did go one time in addition to a coffee shop just by myself, and I sat and wrote, and I was like, oh, I should do this every week, and that hasn't happened again. But you know, life. Am I happy with it? That's a great question. Yes and no. I am happy with it because this is where I am. I would not, at this point, want to be spending more time because it's summer and I just want to be spending time with my kids. But I really want in the next couple weeks to really sit down and sort out my goals and kind of create a writing routine. It's hard for me to, I think it's hard for anybody to start building habits. So I want to start thinking of like the small pieces to start a writing routine, and then what things can I slowly add on to create the writing routine that I would like. I'm really thankful for this writing group because I'd always wanted to be part of a writing group, and when I couldn't find one locally, I started one, and I've really appreciated the community, and I made a new friend through the group, and having the accountability for the writing time has just been really nice. But I'm also starting to look ahead to what I would like my ideal writing routine to look like. And yeah, in the next couple weeks, I really want to sit down and kind of start working out more of what I would like that to look like. I want to create more of like habits and a routine for like setting up, okay, what will signal this is my writing time? Either signals to my brain, whether it's going to be, I don't know, a candle or just a routine for like, this is my writing time, and entering into that writing time. And then anyways, so I'm playing around with ideas for what I want it to look like exactly, and how often and how long, and all of these things. So stay tuned as I develop my process. Prompt 5, have you encountered any good resources about writing? There are so many great resources out there, but I'll talk about one, and that is the snowflake method. This method was created by Randy Ingermanson. His outlining method is the first method that I tried when I was first going from a pure pantser to starting to become a plotter. I don't fully utilize his system, but I still use elements of it, and I think about it a lot as I'm creating and developing my outlines and projects. If you find yourself in between a pantser or a plotter, or if you want to start trying plotting, I feel like this is a great method to start with. Prompt 6, if you write with a playlist, what are your current go-to songs to get into writing mode? I usually listen to ambiance videos. Coffee shop ambiance are my favorite. I love the channel Cozy Coffee Shop. They always have at least one live stream going on with music and yeah, ambiance, coffee shop sounds. Number 7, toughest moment related to your writing so far this year. I think honestly, it's just been the mental side. There have been a few times where I've been getting into my head about, oh, my writing should look like this, or if I'm not writing this amount of time during the week, then, or if I'm not writing every day, then, you know, whatever, fill in the blank. So I feel like just kind of combating that and reminding myself that this is my process, this is my writing, and it's okay if it doesn't look like anybody else's. I'm figuring out what works for me. So I think that's been the hardest thing. Number 8, best memory related to your writing so far this year. Oh gosh, there's a lot. Honestly, this has been my best writing year in a while. I am in a much better headspace overall. I am in my year of saying yes to things, my era of pursuing dreams and allowing myself to try things and take myself seriously. I am in my era of accepting and embracing the small steps that will eventually end up being the big steps. And then just my actual writing, sending my work to some beta readers, submitting to the contest. It's been great. Number 9, something important that you've learned or advice for your future self. It can be very practical about the craft or more broadly about your own practice. This is something that I had heard before, but I feel like there are so many things that like you can hear something and you can be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But until you get it, it doesn't really sink in. And I feel like it's only been in the last year that it's really started to sink in for me. Your first draft will be crap. And when I'd heard that before, it was like, oh yeah, sure. However, I'm sure so-and-so's first draft is less crappier than my first draft, you know, whatever, all the thoughts that would just follow that. Or, well, yeah, but you don't know what my first draft is like this is beyond, like this is not great. And realizing, no, the first draft is part of the process. Nobody sits down and writes a first draft that only needs minor edits. Most people, when they sit down and write, that's why it's called the first draft. It's okay if there are even huge holes, plot holes, or whatnot. I realized how much that I was waiting to write a first draft where I was like, oh, this is it. This is the first draft that I can go with, that I can work with, that I can polish up. This will be my book. And I finally realized there is not going to be the magical first draft. Every polished end product started out as a first draft, and then a second draft, and then a third draft, and who knows how many drafts. And that's okay. It's part of the process. So if your first draft sucks, that's okay. It doesn't mean your story is bad. It doesn't mean that you can't write. It just means it's your first draft. It just means it's not done. It's going to be edited, and that's okay. Number 10, what would you like to accomplish through writing during the second half of the year? Ideally, I would like to finish my completed first draft for this middle grade novel, and start my editing from my novel from last year's NaNoWriMo. I've been mentally percolating the sequel to that book for a year and a half or so. So I kind of want to start writing on that, but I don't know that I'll have time. I think my priorities, first of all, are the middle grade novel, starting the editing, and then, depending on how that goes, maybe starting by the end of the year, the first draft for the sequel. Number 11, tag other writers. I'm actually going to tag a handful of people because there are so many great authors that I follow here on BookTube. I would love to hear from you all if you would like to do this tag. And if you're a writer and I did not tag you, but you would like to do this, please do it. I would love to hear your answers. I would love to connect with other writers and follow along as we work on our projects. I'm going to tag Dawn Dalton, Emma Bennett, Emily Good, Searching for Samantha, Olivia's Pages, and Fiona Howell Writes. Thank you again, Kat, so much for the tag. Thank you for creating this tag, and until next time, happy writing. Writers mid-year freak out. No. Mid-year. My cat is trying to get out. Now my cat wants back in. But does he really, though, is the question.